I like to welcome everybody, especially guests that usually don't come, and some of my WTME family. So I like to welcome you. I like to share a little bit of my life with you, and I thought I'd start off by kind of telling you about my mom and dad. My dad was one of 18 children. He came from a big, what we call in Germany, not a farm, but a gut. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's bigger than a farm. And they were 18 children. And so he had it pretty rough on there. They had to get up 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and do their chores before they go to school. And so it was pretty tough life. But later on, when my grandmother and grandfather, when they sold it, or rented it, I guess they rented it out, and there was supposed to be, between the 18 children, it was supposed to be divided, the money that was coming in. And you know how it is with money, the brothers and sisters, they get kind of quarreling, and my dad wanted no part of it. And he stepped back, and that kind of upset my mother, and I can understand it, and you will see how that would have helped us later on when my dad was in concentration camp, but he rejected it, and so it made an awful hardship later on for us. My mom, by the way, my father was a very quiet man. He was very gentle. He liked quietness. My mother was a very temperamental woman. She came from the South. And they have already beer for breakfast, so maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Oh, she was, I don't know how those two ever got together, but they come from a blind date. Well, anyway, I give you a little history of my mom. She came from 9 children, and her father, my dad was a Protestant. My mother comes in the South, it's most all Catholic folks. And so she came from a Catholic family. And my grandfather, before he got married, had studied to be a priest. But I guess things didn't go right for him. He had a terrible temper, so did my mom. And I guess something went wrong. And out of those 9 children, there was only 3 living. He had such a terrible temper. My mom told me once that she had a brother who was just a tiny little thing, and he had standing off ears, and I guess he didn't like it. And he would take that boy on the ears up, and just, it sounds so cruel, you know. But I just want to give you little information of where my mom is coming from, because then it won't look so bad what I have to share with you. My mom was given away to a stepmother, sort of, and I guess they didn't have the money or something. He was a heavy drinker on top of it, my grandfather. And one day, my mom said she was taken by her stepmom to meet her real mother, and she just came out of the field hacking potatoes, and you know how they have these little hookers. And she just wiped my mom over the face with it. My mom had those scars for the rest of her life. And you know, when my grandmother came to die, I guess she wanted to make up for me, but I was such a, I couldn't, God forgive me, but I had a hard time forgiving that lady. I could just see that what she had done to my mom when she was introduced to her. So that gives you a little background, what my mom and my father, from what family they came. They met on a blind date, and they were not very well suited for each other. My dad was a well digger, and he liked peace and quiet when he would come home and have a home life. My mom, she liked music, and she liked people around her. She always had the house full of people, and that was her life. She would Actually, we used to have a lot of beggar and singers, going around and asking for coins. And she would have them come in and play for her just for some meals. And sit there all day and play for her. And she was such a smart lady. She could play any instrument by ear. And sometime when she felt blue, she would just take that mandolin. I see her still taking that mandolin and closing her eyes and singing these sad songs, and they made me cry as a kid. I was so sensitive to those sad songs, and she would say, she said, it's just a song, but they touched me so, I guess I was always quite sensitive to sad things, and, well, that's the way she was. So, for my early childhood, I don't remember so much, but my mom said I was a rascal. She had a little flower garden, and you all know me, I love flowers, and she says I was determined. I picked those flowers, and she says no matter how many times she spanked me, I would always go back to those flowers. I don't remember that. She told me that, But later on, when I get a little older, I remember we had such a stingy old neighbor, and he had those apple orchards, And as kids, we were told by Mom and Dad we shouldn't bother him. But there I went with the boys. My mother always said I should have been a boy. I was such a rascal. And we went over the fence, and we stole the apples. And that man came with his cane, after us, how older people, and we giggled, and over the wall we went, and, well, my mom and dad heard about it. I got such lickings, I'm telling you. But it never stopped me, I went right back. And then I remember I got my first two-wheeler. And I think I caused my mother gray hair. What I didn't do on that bike. No hands, no hands. And she would always, because in Germany, transportation, bicycles was our transportation. Very little cars, very few people had cars at that time. And it was mostly walking and bicycles. And so, when I had my bike, I would do all kinds of stunts on that, and she would holler after me. She was not bashful. She would just holler right out on the street. And I would laugh, and get another licking. Rip more pants on that. She would say, climb trees and everything else. I think I was a little hellion. Then Hitler came on the scene, and things really had a bad turning. My dad was a well digger, and when you're in business, you have all kinds of people to deal with, and we had a lot of Jewish people that we had business with, a lot of friends too that were Jewish, and Hitler cleaned up. You weren't supposed to have any dealings with the Jews, nothing. And we had dealings with Jewish people. There was one couple that had a shoe store, and later on they were of such help to us, to my mom and me. Well, one night, Gestapo always did, dirty works are always done at night, aren't they? And I was just a little shaver then. I wasn't very old. And I remember banging on the door, and we got up, and Gestapo. Well, they went through the whole house. And, of course, I didn't know what went on. I cried because my mom cried, and they went through the whole house, and then they took my dad. Just like that. So that left my mom and me stranded with what? Nothing. They didn't have no welfare, no nothing. And my mother and dad, they were just a short-time marriage, how it is. You establish your home, and so they didn't have that many savings, so we went through that quite quickly. So that's when hard times started. And so my mom, thank God for her really, because she had a lot of guts. And she was so talented with music. we would go begging, and that was forbidden. When Hitler came on the scene, that was forbidden. And as a kid, oh, I remember, I hated that. She made me a cake, and I had to drag that mandolin under that cake. And she would drag me into the city. We lived on the outskirts of Hamburg. Oh, by the way, I was born in Hamburg, and that's the biggest port in Germany. And we lived on the outskirts of it. And she would go with me, all walking, and she would go with me in the city with those big houses, and she would sing, and I would sing with her. And I would have to climb up, and she would stay downstairs, and I would have to go in every door and ask for money for the music. Well, when you come so many stairs up, they don't hear the music anymore. I said one time to her, Mom, they don't hear the music. But people were kind. But one day, man opened, and a Gestapo, I was so scared, because they could turn you right in. They could turn you right in, and, you would be dragged off. But he didn't say nothing. He just slammed the door in our face, and that was it. Then in the wintertime, we used to go, when the ships come in the port, there is these waters, I don't know, the ships come in and they unload all those coals, what makes that ship go, and they would leave the coals out. And so people would go there and stand up to here in water and fish those coals that haven't been burned, stand there with baskets. And so my mother and I almost drowned in that rushing water because I was so anemic. And I guess the thing was the water, just, And so we fished coals out of that. And me on my little bike, she would tack that on there, and she would load up on her bike. And what many trips we had to make just to get our heat, And then in the summertime, we would go in the woods. That was a 2-3 hour ride by bicycle, and mushrooms we picked, blueberries we picked, what she put up, and different things to help ourselves. And that was really, really, really hard times. And besides that, when you're a kid, and you made fun of, like the kids, when we went begging around there, and they would make fun of me, and that was hard. When you're a kid, you just don't understand all of that, and why those things happen. And so they were hard times. And in school, too, I started school, and there was a lot of teachers that were very, very fanatic with Hitler. And when they found out that my dad was in concentration camp, and that I didn't belong to any youth group, from the Nazis, there was one teacher, she had it in for me, she really did. And I had gymnastics with her, and she would, with the tambourine, with the tambour stick, how you have, and she would hit me over the legs there for no reason whatsoever. And that I was just big wells on the thing. And I would go home, and I hardly could sit down. I was so sore, I didn't want to tell my mom. And finally she said, "What's wrong with you?" She said, "Why don't you sit down fiddling around there?" And when she saw that, she looked at me, and when she saw that, oh, she was so angry. And she wrote a letter to that teacher. Well, you didn't get anywhere, because the principal, he was talking to my mom. He was a nice, kind man. And he was saying, my name was Schlode, okay? And he said, Frau Schlode, he said, you're better off to make an apology to that teacher, because she can really make it tough for your child, worse for your child. Mm-hmm. So, well, she had to do it. She didn't want to, but she had to do it. And it was hard for her because, she loved me. And but in the meantime, my mom got very frustrated and losing her temper. And I'm sure you can understand when you don't have enough to give your child to eat, when you go hungry, when everything is against you, you can understand. And so whenever there was something like when she dropped the cup with my mother would slap me on the head, and it got so bad that one day I ran away. I decided I'd run away. And when she found me, you know, we had those cellars. We had these cellars that were dirt cellars. And of course we had no refrigeration. And we had everything in those big, where they make sauerkraut, you know, those crocks. Yeah. Big crocks there. And we would put our butter in there, and you know, and we would have to go down there with a candle because it was so dark in there. And there was little field mice coming in, you know, and they had always, parents had always set traps there. And when she got me, when I ran away there, she tied me to a chair, and she whooped me so bad that I thought she would kill me. But I think it was just, I can understand it now, you see, but as a kid I couldn't understand it. I thought my mom didn't love me anymore. And then she would stick me sometime in that dark cellar for hours. And I remember that neighbor lady, I guess the Lord sent her, because I had good lungs. I always hollered loud. and when she heard me, she would always come over, you know, and kind of soothe my mom and say, oh, let her go, you know. And she was really my guardian angel. I remember once my mom sent me to get a card. There was a wedding in the neighborhood, and you know, as kids, we would get so excited because when we delivered a card, we would get a little goodie cake or a cookie, you know, and that was a big thing, you know. So, especially for me, where I didn't have very much, and I got so excited. Instead of bringing it to my mother to have it signed, I brought it right over to the neighbors. So when I got back, she said, where's my card? And I said, oh, Mom, I brought, look what cake. Why, she got so angry again. Oh, she almost. But like I say, she was very nervous by that time. Almost had a nervous breakdown. And they let my dad out for a season. I don't know why they did that, if they were just too crowded in a concentration camp or what. I don't know, but they let him out for a season. And my mom got pregnant with my brother. And but they picked him back up again. They took him back in again. My uncle the same way. My uncle they killed in there. My dad was quiet when he came out. He never talked about the things they did in there. But my uncle, you couldn't keep him quiet. He was telling of what they did to him in there, and they just killed him. They killed him. No. First they sent my aunt bloody washing to be washed, and then he was gone. He couldn't take it. He said they were taking him, putting him in bright light and questioning him when he had no answers, because they were really not doing anything, just not going into that party. And they would bang with a hammer on his head. And that would continue for hours and hours. And that poor man, he was in the First World War and had a very, very bad, I remember my uncle being embraced, and he didn't live very long. They killed him in there. But my father, well, he was quiet and didn't say very much. I guess he was kind of spared, you know. And, well, I'm losing my thoughts here. Then I was quite sick as a little gal. I came down with, I don't know if it was, you know, not enough food or what, but I had a stomach, I don't know what you would say it in English. It was a chronic decision, a chronic condition with the stomach and intestine. And I would just have, as bowel movement, just slime and blood would come out. And they almost lost me with that. But God had different plans. God had different plans. He had his hand on me. And then I came down with strep throat, rheumatic fever, and I remember getting treatment for that. And then they said they had to stop it because it was affecting the heart. And but I came out of that all right too. And then it was pretty easy going. I was pretty well after that, except anemia. So it was pretty smooth sailing after that. I loved to dance as a youngster, as I was growing into, a little older. I loved music and I loved dancing. Oh, how I loved to dance. Even now, sometimes, when we have nice music at home there, I will say to my man, I say, come on, Papa, polka with me. Are you crazy? Are you crazy? He will say. But I do dance. I'm so happy sometimes, when my bones let me. But I'm so happy sometimes because it's, like I say, it's just the Lord that gives you the happiness. But I love dancing, and there was a man in the neighborhood, and he saw me once dancing, and he said to my mother, I would pay for her to be in ballet dancing. And so my mother had visiting rights to go to the concentration camp, and she talked it over with my dad, and he said, no way, he said, what kind of a life would she have? And I was so mad as a youngster, but I'm glad now. I'm glad now because when you hear, what they're going through and what kind of a life they have, I don't think it would have been for me. And then we had this Jewish people that we did business with, and they were, you always find some good people that help you out. And they were helping us out, and whenever I needed a pair of shoes, they had a shoe store. And they had no children, and they adopted me so bad. And it was just when Hitler came on the regime and they were thinking of going to America, and they wanted me to take me with them. I wish I could find them here in America if they're still alive. They were so good to me. And there my father said, sure, let her go. She will have a better life. And my mother said, are you crazy? I'm not giving up my child. So, it was just the other way around, but I guess in their wisdom they know what they were doing. And I hope they did get away because they were good people. Also, what my mom and I did, we did a lot of mending socks, for other people for 10 cents a pair, and doing that kind of work. And again, I found a lady that she just loved me, and I think she was a saint. She had such beautiful white hair. She was an elderly lady, and she had a daughter that had rheumatic fever, very, very bad. She could hardly move. And she invited me once, and she made just like a little party, She had a little doll. I never knew what a doll was, never had any toys. And so she had a little doll there for me, and little goodies. And oh, I thought I had gone to heaven. So you see, you find some good people everywhere, even in bad times. Then I go up to be a teenager, and there my life kind of changed. I got very, how can I say, very serious youngster. From the outgoing rascal what I was was very, how do you say when you go sort of introvert, And I used to ask myself, what am I here for anyway? This life, no fun at all. When you're a young person, no fun, just this hardship. And then when the war started, I started my high school. And we were set up like, I would have high school, and also I learned after school a beautician work. So I worked after school. That's how it was set up in Germany like that. And so I came home from school, and I had to go and work in the beauty parlor around all that. We had 3 years of that. And they cut it down to 3 because it was 4, and they cut it down to 3 because a lot of men had to go, to war. The war broke out. And so we were short on manpower. That's why I never learned English and French, because we had it in school. And I never had the privilege of, because I just came in the bad time when they cut down on teaching power and all, So, but because we were in Hamburg, right on the coast, we got the bombing from the very beginning. The English, they came over. And, oh, I can't tell you when you have war in your own land. I would get up sometime, and there was no trolley car because where I went to school. It was quite a bit away, the high school, and had to walk and walk for miles. And I can't tell you, after a bombing like that, they don't have time to clean up in a hurry because, you know, when they bomb, it's just such a terrible panic everywhere, you know, because people really didn't expect it on the beginning to be so bad. And just high homes just gutted out, you know, to even things. And as I would walk to work a lot of times, just seeing arms, legs, people torn apart from the bombing. And you know, it's just a few years makes it now that I don't have any more nightmares. I still have nightmares over years, nightmares that I wake up and just sweat. And it became so bad with my mom that I was more of a mom to her, and she just went all to pieces when the war broke out. She was just one nervous lady. It just took toll on her, you know. And I think you can understand, young woman, all that hardship, carrying it all by herself, you know. And going back again when I was smaller, I forgot to tell you that, she would accept sometime invitations from man, and we were invited out for dinner. And my mom was a good woman. But I guess she did that just so that we had something to eat. I can't think of any other way. And she would say, now, if then man touches Mama, you go right in between. But, you know, as a kid, you hate those situations. I hated that so much. And I think it leaves something inside of you, you know what I'm saying? It leaves a hang up there somewhere, all those things. Mm-hmm. I can't explain, but I felt as a teenager I wasn't worth anything. Because, and that really got into adult years too, because always being looked down on. In school, I had this from the children, from the teacher. The children, they made fun of me, of course, of the hand-me-downs, you know, I had from them. So you had that. And so I really didn't feel I was worth anything. And that's an awful feeling. And so we had already, on my mom's side, one suicide. And my dad was 4 to 5 suicides. And I really, as a teenager, I really was suicidal. I said, Lord, if that's all there is, that's what I was questioning myself. If that's all there is to life, just work. And you have to understand, these bombings, they lasted. That's not just for a day. I didn't get home sometime till midnight or in the middle of the night, and just to get a few hours sleep and get up again and go back to work again. And so, you know, I was young and I could take it better, but my mom, she was just, she wasn't taking it very well. After I got my 3 years done, Hitler had it programmed that when you got out of high school, you had to do 1 year, wherever they sent you, for hardly any money. You had to go, and some girls, they got to a farm, and I was lucky. I was transferred to Munich, I was working there for a couple. They had a beauty parlor, and I think they had some kind of pull that they got me because I came out of beauty school and just had finished school. So I guess they had some kind of pull, and I worked for them, and they used me. They used those girls hard to get something out of them. So I had to scrub floors in the morning and do all the cleaning And in the afternoon, I had to work in the beauty parlor. They used me in there. So, but that was okay. I didn't mind that. But there again, the war was going on, and it came more to the southern states. You know what I mean? The bombing, it got worse and worse. And so one time we were working in the beauty parlor, and my boss said, "Oh, it won't be. They just gonna go over. Let's work. Let's keep on working." And right where I was in that house, that bomb came down, and we was completely shut it in. The man on the top floor there, who lived on top there, he died, and we were shut it in about for 2 hours till they got that out. And that wasn't very pleasant. No, but you get so fearful because you really have nothing. I know there was a God, but he seems so far away. He seems so far away. I didn't know the Lord, and that's my Savior. And so in the meantime, I hear that my place in Hamburg, Munzweg, that place where we lived on the outskirts, that was badly bombed, and I didn't get no more letters from my mom. So every day for 6 weeks I would go to the train station and look because they would transfer, because whole Hamburg, I don't know if you ever seen a picture of it, but the whole Hamburg was almost flat. It was all bombed, all these big buildings, all the people, they had to go somewhere. So they transported the people in these big animal trains, those what they call them, those cattle cars, yeah. And they would come by bunches, and I would ask people, are you from so-and-so, are you from Munzweg? Did you see anybody there? Oh, they say it's all bombed out. And I was just beside myself. I thought I had lost my mom and my brother, And finally, after 6 weeks, I got news. She had gone to Augsburg. That was her hometown, so she had gone back there. And they had assigned her to a little room there from a widow's lady, and that's where she was living. And after my 1 year, I went together with my mom. I went over there, and I was working for Beautician for a little while, and then they cut down all the beauty parlors. Hitler said we need the electricity, and that's luxury, and so they cut that down. So I went to work for post office, so I had to take courses and, learn in post office. And then they needed some people in a long distance place. They had we say fan, I don't know if it's, how you say, long distance building. That was a high building in Augsburg. It was a high building. And we were long distance operators. So again, I had to go through courses and learn new things. And I remember they were so strict. I used to walk in and say hi or good morning or whatever. And they had me on the carpet so many times. They said, "It's Heil Hitler, Heil Hitler." And so, well, you have to do it. Otherwise, they would put you away. They were so, it was so bad that family members went against family members and squealed on them, and that they got arrested. Every day on our street there was people missing. Always overnight they came, always overnight, and got people and put them away. Always in the nighttime. And so when I wasn't on duty, I would run home to be with my mom, because she was just, she said, "I feel so much better when you're here," she would say. And run home, and it was quite a few miles. But when I was on duty, we had to sit there, and we had to give the location of the bombers to other towns. And so when it was your duty, you was just sitting there. And I'm telling you, ladies, that sometimes you thought you would go out of your head, because that building was, when they bombed, that was just swaying, and you thought you would go down. It was scary. It was really scary. And I got quite bad at that time, because I guess it took its toll on me too, being sort of mother to my mom, and because when you're a young person, you just can't carry all of that load, And so I almost had a nervous breakdown there, and there was I thought I was in heavenly places. Oh, it felt so good just to rest and relax a little bit, from all of that. And they didn't have any bombing there. And then Sunday mornings they would come that from all the churches over the water. You would hear that all the church bell, and it was just beautiful. It was just lovely. But back again to the old gray. But soon after that, the Americans came in, and we were very, very happy when they came in because that ended the bombing, okay? And that ended sort of the hardship. But we didn't know if my dad was still alive or not. And so I set out one day, and I hitchhiked to Hamburg. It took me about a whole week because it's quite a ways, and there was no train, no nothing. So I just hitchhiked, and I can't tell you what I went through in those days. I overnighted in the train station with a lot of people because it was so confused. Everybody was looking for somebody, after the war, everything goes haywire. Everybody was looking for loved ones and stuff. And so these train stations, the people would just hover there and just overnight, get a few hours sleep and then go on again. And oh my gosh, I was full of fleas, and I was so uncomfortable and dirty, not having any place to wash, and dear, it was just horrible times, okay. But I could get through because I was a young girl, and so on the border they kind of flipped an eye, But I did find my father, and he was still alive. And but I couldn't take him back over because you see that was already divided. Hamburg was English zone. We were in the American zone. Then in Berlin was the Russian zone. It was all divided up. You see, Germany when they came in after the war there. And so I had to go back, and I went to the Americans and got a paper that I could get my dad. And by that time, things were already a little better. You had certain ways you could go already from little train ways, and maybe hitch a train and stuff like that for short ways. See? And so that was a little better. And I got my dad. And by the way, we had one little room when I got from Munich to Augsburg, and that my brother was always sickly. He had very bad asthma. And it was a room, well, like one of the small Sunday school rooms. And we just had two cots in there, a little table in between those two tables. And I remember washing in a little bowl of washing, and my mother, she was always quite good. We stripped right down and washed in that little bowl. She was clean, always clean. But and then the cooking too. We lived with this widow lady, and she cooked first because it was just at dinner time they gave you an hour, and at night time they gave you an hour. Otherwise it was completely shut off, the gas, to save. And so, of course, after she got done, they didn't leave us much time, so we sometimes didn't. And we didn't have much anyway. I remember living on water soup, and then hard bread broken into it, and this is awful to say. This was before the war ended. A lot of cats disappeared, and my mother didn't want to tell us what we were eating. And I'm sure we did. But when you're so hungry, even after the Americans, and there was such a turmoil that we went usually in the American, where they were stationed, and looked in the trash can, for food and stuff. And then I started working for the Americans, and I was working as a hairdresser, and so my father was a heavy smoker, and I used to bring him all the stumps, home. And, he used to wait up, for the stumps, to have some stumps. And little things what I could get, or what they would give me, I would bring home, and I would never have anything alone. I would always save it and share it, and they were waiting, just sharing everything. And then I met a man, and I thought I was madly in love. Well, I thought it was just, now I'm thinking back, and I guess it was just all fantasy, trying to get away from hard times. And America sounded so good, what we heard about America. Oh, it sounded like a dream world. And oh my, I thought, wouldn't that be wonderful for America? Well, we got married. My mom wasn't very pleased. She said, he's not the man for you. But us when we're young kids, one straight mind. Don't listen to mom and dad. Have a mind of our own. And so I got married. And came over here. I didn't come right away over because it took quite a while with paperwork. Oh, it was so much paperwork till we had that together. In the meantime, I was pregnant. We got married in Germany, and I was pregnant right off, so that didn't make it very good coming over because we came on ship. We had a big storm, and was I sick. I was one sick lady. And then in Boston, I remember my mother-in-law meeting us, and she was the sweetest woman. She was so good to me. And she was saying one time to me, she said, I hope you don't turn out like his father. He had left him with 5 children. And she was bringing up her 5 children. And so we lived quite a little while till the baby was born, and that was Harry that was born. And we lived in Massachusetts. And then my husband got a wild idea. He had an uncle here up in Maine, and he was saying, oh, it's so much better in Maine, you find a job, and this and that. And, we moved up to Maine. We lived with his uncle for a while. Then we found a little inn. I don't know if you remember the Empire State Building, and across from there was a little fruit store, Bruno's, Italian people. And we lived in back, on top there, in the back end. We had one room, a little kitchenette, and a bath. And I remember doing my washing on a over the tub. Oh, we didn't have anything over the tub, And then with a new baby. And my husband, he was really starting drinking. I don't know what, he was drinking already before, but I guess, when you have courtship in Germany, I didn't see that much of him. So I really, didn't know him that well. And he was really a heavy drinker. And so we went through quite a hard time. And one time, and then other women came in the picture, and then he left me once. And not knowing the language too well, not having a family, there you are with your baby. It was tough to him. And one night, I used to go a lot of time downstairs and help out a little bit, and that Mrs. Bruno, she was awfully good to me. And I come up one time, and he had tried to commit suicide, and the gas jets were all open. And I don't know if any of you remember, my name was Kelly then. And so they took him up to Togus and started shock treatment, and then they had me come up there and said if I wanted to take him back. And I said, well, it's okay, I'll take him back, but it just didn't work out. In the meantime, these big carriages they used to have then. Well, we had a second-hand carriage there, and I was living on the second floor, and with that carriage, down and up and down the stairs, going from shoe shop to shoe shop, looking for a job. And it was so hard to find a job because it was right after the war, and I don't know if you remember, it was hard to get jobs. And day after day, and I think in Cushman, that man, I think he got tired of seeing me day by day. And I guess he thought, is she telling me the truth? Because I told him I had a little baby and had to support that baby. And he came to see me once in my apartment. And he said, if you want the job, it's yours. Oh my, I was so happy. Now to find a place for the boy, for the boy. And I looked at a few places that was awful dirty, and I didn't want to put him there. So I had him boarded at the Louis Children's Home. I don't know if you remember that. And it was so hard for me because I love children. And I remember going on the bus and carrying him up there and leaving him. So it was 4 years. I finally decided on a divorce because they had told me October they had me come up there again. And they said he'll never change. So make a new start with your baby, they said. And of course I didn't believe in divorce, even though we were not born again, but they had high morals in Germany. I was brought up, the divorce was just a no-no in those days. Maybe here it was too then, And, but I figured for the baby's sake, because, if he does that again, the baby could have died. And so I had my divorce. And tried to make a living for the boy, and he never had any support from his father. He tried to go to a lawyer a few times and whatever. When I went to the lawyer, I would get a little money and had to pay it to the lawyer, so, it wasn't really there was no help, But Harry was a blessing. He was a sweet child. He really was. And I worked hard. I went in the shoe shop, and then the shoe shop, they laid us off. And that man felt so bad that he had to lay me off because, I needed to work. But God was good. He provided right away a job in the mill. So I got a job in the mill, but I didn't know that I was allergic to dust, and I was working in the car room. And that was it was a hard place. It was night work. And, you probably don't remember that, but there was rumors going around, you could have a German girl for just a candy bar. And I remember coming out of those mills, and some man really making funny things, and saying, different things. And they found soon out that this girl wasn't to have for a candy bar. They soon left me alone. But, when they say one bad apple, they think everybody's bad. But we had a lot of good people over there. We were not all bad. But there was still this, right after the war, there was still this anger towards the Germans, and I could feel it. When I was working in the shoe shop, they would do sometimes some crazy things to me because I was a hard worker and I was a fast worker, and I guess it was a little jealousy sometimes, And they would lay spools in the back of my chair that I should fall over, and I would go home and just cry, and so lonely. I don't know if anybody here is lonely, but I was so lonely. And then I met my husband. And that was shortly after my divorce. That rascal, he said he'd seen me already in the VFW, who I used to go with my husband sometime when we went out, some Saturday. And he, I guess he inquired about me, and they said, well, she's married. So, well, that was that. But when he heard that I had a divorce, wow, it was wide open, And I fell head over heel in love with that fella. I did go out with, I don't know if you remember Roger Doobie on Cedar Street. Oh, he was quite a lady man. He was always after me. Oh, my. He would come out with things, Trudy says, I bring the chicken. You're going to cook the chicken for me? And I said, yeah, what else? I know his number because I heard about it. I said, never mind. And, you know, there's a lot of people that want you, but they don't care for your child, you know. And so I really was hoping I would meet somebody. And Larry was so good to Harry. He was so good to him. And his name was Larry, so he couldn't say Larry, so he used to say Laddie. And people thought he said Daddy. So we went out about 4 years, I would say, together. And it didn't get anywhere because Larry was very much in his religion. He was he's Catholic, and he very devout Catholic person, and I could respect that. But I got saved in the meantime. While I was working in the mill, there was working a crazy fella. Oh boy, God works in mysterious ways, you know. And he invited me once to a church on High Street. He said, it's not quite a church. He said, it's just a house. But he said, and I was really searching, you know, when you're so unhappy and so lonely. I was searching for something better. I said, surely there must be something better, you know, in life than just death. And because I was really disillusioned, you know, I thought everything would be fine when I come over here. Well, I had a slap in the face, you know. It wasn't all roses, so it was quite a setback. But I went on High Street, and it was just a house then. And there was about, I would say, 8, 9 people in there. Very friendly. But I come from a very quiet Protestant background. And, well, I got there. All of a sudden I hear, hallelujah, praise the Lord. What a bunch of crazy people. I was so upset. I thought, my goodness, I never come here again. But you know, the Lord, oh, he's so good. He must look down on us sometimes. You poor child. I'm sure he must have said that a lot of times. But every Sunday, there was something tugging in my heart. People were friendly. What the pastor said was good. It's drawn me back. Harry had, as a little child, very, very bad eczema. His little face was just about like open. And they couldn't see nothing to do with it. It hurt me so to see him. They came out with a new salve, that penicillin salve they came out years ago, you know, and they prescribed that, and I would put that on, and that poor little fellow, and I had to put something on him that he wouldn't scratch it, you know, as a young little kid. And it was so painful not to, you know, when something itches, that eczema that was itching, he couldn't scratch it because I had to have something on him. And so one time we had a evangelist come in, and I heard about prayers and healing. And I said, well, you know, I said, yeah, boy, maybe I have my little boy prayed for. And so he was sitting in my lap, and you know, he was instantly, that just left him. And maybe that's what it, you know, sometimes it's something like that to take, you know, to touch your heart and really, you know, well, you know it's real. Later on in his life, Harry had bad ears, and they had to always, Dr. O'Connell, he's gone now, he had to always operate and suction everything out there. There was always some permission. He says, Mrs. Morin, he says, this is the last time I can do this. Then we have to do a masteroid on him. And, you know, there was Sister Guy was saying, you know, how painful of an operation that is, you know, very, very painful. So I just prayed and prayed, and I asked for prayer. He was marvelously healed of that. Oh, I just marvel what God can do. And finally, I got through that. I was a sinner, and I needed to be saved. It finally got through to me. And when I gave my heart to the Lord, I cried about for a week. Lorraine, if you think you cried. But they were not sad tears. They were just a relief, a happy feeling. I couldn't, you see where I'm coming from. I I just, you see, my dad was not a person that could express himself. I never heard from Dad, I love you, and he was a good man, but I never heard it from him. My mom was so, in the circumstances, I thought she didn't love me. I'm sure she did, but, you know, I, just because of the way she treated me, you know, and I can see why maybe she got so, you know. And I really thought nobody cared for me. That, you know, I was just not lovable. And so when I hear that the Lord Jesus loved me so much that he gave his life and suffered, and I saw that in the book, in the Bible, and I used to read it in my German Bible, and then I would go back and I said, Lord, you gotta help me with this. This is for the birds. I need to read that in English. And you know, the Lord blessed me, so he led me. You know how I read? It's just a miracle of God, how he helped me with my reading, you know, and it was just wonderful. And to think that somebody should love me so much, that given his life for me, well, that just whacked me down. I couldn't comprehend it, but that was the most beautiful thing I ever experienced. And I can truly say, I think maybe a lot of times you think, oh, if your childhood would have been a little bit happier, but I thank God a lot of times for those days back there, because it really made me appreciate it. I'm a person that's very, very thankful for everything. Everything God has blessed me with. I say, Lord, I'm just your caretaker here of the home. You have given all of this, you know. And so coming back to the marriage, Larry and I, like I said, there was a lot of friction there about religion, because, you know, when I got saved, well, naturally, I didn't want to give that up. I had a good thing. I found a good thing. And he thought I had gone crazy, you know. And I thought, why can't he see it? You know, we like Pastor says, when you first get saved, you might as well be locked up for a few years, because you do more harm than good. I thought, why can't that man see that? You know. But now I can understand it. It's got to be God's leading. It's got to be God's drawing by his Holy Spirit. You just can't pound him over the head and say, hey, you know. But so there was a tug of war there, and the Shams were still there, and they were such sweet people. They were so helpful to me. And I went back 2 years. In 52, I went back to Germany. In 52, that was, and I'm glad I went. It was a matter of, I had saved up enough for either a little down payment or a little house. You know, the houses weren't so expensive then. For $2,000-3,000, you could buy a house. And I had enough saved up. I was a saver. I was taught at home to penny pinch and save, you know. And so I was brought up that way, and so it was either that or going home. And Larry, at that time, I was going out with him, and said, Trudy, why don't you go home? And it would do you good. And so I went home with Harry. We took the boat, and I went home. And I'm glad I did go, because when I saw my mom, she had heavy bleeding on her rectum. And I said, Mom, why don't you go to the doctor? Oh, she said, I've been to the doctor. She said, they don't find nothing. And when I came back, 2 years after my mom passed away, she was only 52, going on 53. She had a vicious, they opened her up, they did an autopsy, and they said she had in the small intestine, a vicious cancer. And so, and we never believed she was really sick. She always looked so healthy, just like me. It was just like Mom, healthy, you know, and we always thought she put one over on us, but she didn't. And so finally, I made, Harry was 4 years old, and he was, you know, almost starting school, and I said, well, this relationship is going to come to an end, because it's not going anywhere. And so I was going to go with the Champs. The Champs was going down Missouri. And I was supposed to be with a family there and to pay my room and board. I had sent that already, and I was supposed to take care of their children while they go out and work. And so they wanted me to send already the money ahead for the room and board there. And so I told Larry that, and wow. Then he finally came down and said, well, he said, if we get married in my church, but you bring up the children, if there's children, you bring them up the way you want to. Well, that sounded good to me. I was warned by Christian not to marry an unbeliever, but I really was in love. And you know, when you go with a fella for 4 years and he was good to her, it's hard, you know, and when you're young, you think, oh, surely he will see, you think surely he will see and come and see it. But we had it rough starting out because I had gone to Germany, and that was when I came back. I had stored the little furniture I had. And so we got married, and we worked very hard. We took a little apartment on Russell Street, and and we both wanted children. And like I say, Larry was very good to Harry. He adopted him, which made me very, very happy. And so there never seemed to be anything happening. Oh, in the meantime, I came down too. I was sick and could hardly walk. And Dr. Twaddle found a tumor as big as a grapefruit in my side, so they had to take that out. And so it seemed so we wanted children, and I couldn't get pregnant for some reason. And so we just hang in there. And after 1 year living in that apartment, the landlord, that house was sold, and the landlord came in and he said, well, the house is going to be sold, and the new landlord, he raised our rent so high, And we said, well, I said to my husband, I said, my goodness, that's terrible to go so high. I said, why don't we buy a home? He says, are you foolish woman at what? But we did. We looked around and we bought on the insurance. Our friends, I had some German Jewish friends here, and they offered to help. And by the way, it was quite a wedding. My husband's family, they thought my husband was the baby of the family. That was their baby brother. Marrying a divorced woman with a child. What? So I had quite a wedding, I tell you. Everything in French, I just sat there. I didn't understand a word of French. And that's the way that went. Nobody of my friends was invited. And but I had two sister-in-law that was very good to me, so I felt after a while they loved me for what I was. And so I loved them. I loved the others too. But anyway, the rent had gone up, and so we bought this house, and we worked very hard. Never took a vacation. In our vacation time, we worked. And one time, brother and sister Snow were here. They were outcasted. We always had some good pastors. And we thought we treated ourselves for a few days in Boston, they played the Seven Wonders of the World there. That was very, very nice. But we were supposed to stay a few days, and they took care of Harry. Well, we got so homesick for Harry. After one night, we went back home. Sister Snow said, what are you doing here already? We felt so guilty leaving that boy behind. It was so much funny. And then after a while, I got pregnant. I lost that little boy. And Dr. Twaddle at that time said, you shouldn't get pregnant right away again, but you know how that happened. Larry, the Catholic folks, they don't believe in anything, So I guess we kissed a little bit too long, and there I went again. I didn't make it at that time either, and I lost that little, and on that time, both times, they almost lost me because the afterbirth, you see, I looked healthy on the outside. I had gained with Harry. I gave that doctor nightmare. I gained in 14 days, I gained 18 pounds. You see, when I came from Germany to America, with my mother-in-law, I was living there. She had a big family. They were all still mostly at home. And they left food on the table. They left food on the plate. Well, I cleaned up every plate. I said, don't throw that away. I would say, I cleaned that all up. I never cleaned it. She took me to the grocery store. She said, Trudy, what you want? Oh, bananas. I didn't know what it was. Chocolate. You know, it was, I gained and I gained. And you know, I had a funny notion that if I have that baby, that would all go away. Well, I had to go over my maternity dress. Oh, I was so ashamed. Here I had that little baby. They had to take Harry, which was hard going with Harry. And because I guess my inside didn't grow very, very well. They said my inside didn't grow. I looked healthy on the outside. But they said because of lack of food and lack of nourishment, I guess my inside didn't develop the way it should have. And so I had problems there. And so Harry had to stay in the hospital, and I was so unhappy. Oh, I couldn't take that little tyke home with me, you know. So it was kind of hard to just leave him there. But he made out okay after. But anyway, I'm going back and forth now. When we were at that house, we worked very hard. And then further up on Pond Road, there was always a beautiful lot. And German people, they like land, you know, nature and stuff. And I love that piece of land. I said to her, why don't you go find out and see who that belongs to? And maybe we could buy that. Well, I was working in the shoe shop and he was working. Larry was working so hard. He is a hard worker. He worked on that police department, put in many, many hours, didn't get paid for overtime. They didn't pay overtime then. Now they get paid overtime. But at that time they didn't get paid overtime. And I remember 2 weeks we would get 39 something, and 2 weeks we would get $42 and something. And when we bought the first house, when we moved in there, we were so broke. I remember one Thanksgiving we had, what was it called, sukiyaki. There was a little can of vegetable, and I thought that was something good. Well, when we opened it, it was just some vegetable in water. That was our Thanksgiving dinner dish. So it was poor beginnings. But I just want you to see how the Lord works. Because when we saw that piece of land there, and the guy said, yeah, he would sell it. It was a bachelor, and I guess he just had bought it, you know, to resell. And so we bought that, and I said to Larry, I said, well, we pay it off, and we paid $5 a week, you know, and paid it off, and finally it was ours. And after a while, we were starting to build, and we was going to start to build a two-bedroom house, a small home. And so we did mostly all the work ourselves, and I had a miscarriage before that again, too. Yes, and after I lost the two babies, I went through a really depressing time. Because even though I was saved, I felt, why is God allowing this in my life? I couldn't understand it. And I really, you know, after the second one, after I lost the baby, I really had a hard time. And but I snapped out of it. Then I had a miscarriage. And then when we got started building on that house, I got pregnant with Michael. And we didn't think it looked very good. I carried a tumor with Michael. I was working in the shoe shop, And that morning I started hemorrhaging. Larry said, stay home, woman, stay home. I said, no, I got to finish up those cases. I said, I got to go in, I got to go in. I went in that morning. In the afternoon, they took me by ambulance to the hospital. And they found out I had a tumor. And they said, we have to remove that tumor. It looks cancerous. And after they removed that, they gave me 24 hours to lose Michael. But you know, God had given me the assurance that I would have that baby. You know, when God gives you the assurance, doctors thought I was crazy. I said, oh no, I'm going to have that baby. And they thought I was foolish. But when I finally got in and to the delivery room, they said, is that the girl we're so worried about? And sure enough, but again, I had a very hard time. They let me go a little bit too much and a lot of damage. There was a bladder ripped and everything had gone wrong. And so they took me downstairs and they had to take a cesarean. They waited a little bit too long, so there was a lot of damage done. And after that, after a year or so, I had a hysterectomy, blood transfusion. One time I helped my husband on the house, and I was just like like a zombie, you know, like in a twilight zone, and went to see the doctor, and he said, my goodness, you get less than half of the 6 months, something like that. And it was supposed to be and so they took me in and gave me transfusion, and then they did the hysterectomy. And but I just praise the Lord how He works, because with the building, of course, when I had finally Michael, this house we figured it was too small, really, because we didn't feel that the two boys should be together. There was a lot of difference in ages, you know, and so we figured, well, we sell it, and we stood in our other house, and then we built the house where we're in now. But not having very much money, and the people that were saying, well, there's some granite in it or something. What they have over here, ledge. Yeah, ledge. They said, oh, don't build there. And everything what we undertook, I prayed about it. I took everything to the Lord in prayer, because we had to, you know, because with not having enough money for everything. And so everything fell in place. And so Larry could see that. And he would say sometimes, boy, he says, I don't know. He says, what do you think, woman? And I said, well, let me pray about it. And I would pray about it. And I don't know, I guess really childlike, I guess I was just like Gideon putting out a fleece. And I would ask for some foolish things that might sound foolish to other people, you know, but in my own way, I would just ask for different signs for the Lord to show me. And He never let me down. And we built that home, and we built another home. And then I got sick with angina. You remember this belt I used to have, and really bad with angina. And the doctor called my husband and said, her carpenter days are over. And so I was quite discouraged at that time, because I was always a hard worker, and not, you know, the doctor said, don't do this, don't do that. And you know, when you've been a hard worker, it's hard to just don't do anything and sit down. And I remembered back how I used to like to draw and paint. And so I took up painting. And God really blessed that. Later on, I taught 17 years for the high school, for the adult education. Everything self-taught. I taught quilting, rug braiding, oil painting, and God really blessed it. God really blessed it. And how God always supplied our needs. And I'm sure Larry can say the same thing. You know, when I first got saved, you know how we give our tithes, and he would say, woman, how can you? He says, you begrudge me a package of cigarettes at the end of the week, he says, and you give that money. He said he couldn't understand it. And I said, have you gone without anything, you know? And he could really see how the Lord was blessing us, you know. So, Michael, Harry and Larry, they had a really good relationship. Michael and Larry, they didn't have such a good relationship. I guess they were too much alike. And when Michael was, I was always alone with the boys because Larry was always working. He had 2 jobs for the longest time. He had 2 jobs, one at the police department, then he always had some side jobs. Was such a hard worker, always, seeing for his family. And he kind of had to because I made so many hospital bills. I was in and out of the hospital for a long, long time. But like I said, God was so good of pulling us through all of that. And Harry, as you know, went into the missionary service. He was an engineer. God called him to the missionary service. And again, the hand of God, how he came down with typhoid fever. We were almost beside ourselves. God just undertook, brought him out of that. Had bad hepatitis. And he had that other stuff there where they have malaria. And he just brought him miraculously all through those things. And going back to Michael and Dad, they had a little harder time, and that was hard going for me because when Michael was in his teens, and I can't go into too many details, okay, I hope Michael's going to give his testimony sometime. But I wonder how you would feel, when you want to go for a ride or to go somewhere. Well, if one would go, the other one didn't want to go. And you love them both, and you're in the middle. That was hard going. And, teenager, well, the ones that have teenagers today, what hard times they have and what they're going through. But God is faithful because Michael is serving the Lord too. And so, about a year and a half ago, I came down with cancer. And, by the way, my husband is not one to show his feeling very much, okay? And I guess that always put a little damper on my spirit because, like I told you, I was always so of little self-worth, and I guess I needed to hear that. When you don't get it as a child, there's always this longing to be loved. I can't explain it, but it's still there. And the Lord loves you, and that sees you through a lot of hard obstacles. If I didn't have the Lord, I don't know what I would do today. I really don't know. And when I came down, I had gone to this doctor for 4 years and told her all the problems and never paid any attention to it. She knew that both my parents died on cancer. My dad later on died on cancer too. By the way, my mother got saved when I got home. My dad, as good as a man he was, he says, Trudy, don't tell me of a loving God, he says. Because what I've seen, what I've been through, he says, don't tell me. And I used to say, Dad, you can't blame people. What mean people do, you can't blame them for all of that. And I just pray that in his last hour that God got hold of him. And he would always tease him. He said, if your mother, my mother had a terrible temper, if your mother is going to heaven, I'm going to but you see, he didn't realize that it's not by works, not how good we are. The Bible says we're nothing. We're all sinners and have come short of the glory of God. We're nothing. We're really nothing. We're precious in his sight because he gave his life for us. And that finally, with the years, got through to me. And I can really, truly stay here now and say, I like myself. I can face myself. Before I couldn't do that. I really didn't like myself. I didn't think I was worth anything. And that was for the longest time. Till finally God got through to me that I'm precious in his sight. I'm worth something. And I can face myself now. I know that I have my good points. I have many bad points. I have that too, but I can face that too because I'm human. And I have faults and failures. And with the help of God, every day is going to get a little better. It's going to help me that I want to be a better vessel for him. I want to be a shining light for him. And well, when I came down with cancer, I the doctor brought me in, and I couldn't believe it because here I was going to that doctor for 4 years and told her all my problems, and she didn't pay any attention. And so he told me it was all spread out already, and had gone through the lymph node, and you know that they had to remove the breast. So I had to go home and tell my husband. I never forget it. Now remember, I told you he's not a man of many words. And I said, you know, they probably have to take a breast off. I said, how you feel about it? Because he says he gave me option that I could have radiation and different stuff. And he says, he looked at me and he had tears in his eyes. He says, no matter how you are, Trudy, he says, I just want to keep you. And you know, that meant so much to me because I know it was hard for him to say. And I love him so dearly. and that was hard for him to say that. And, but God was good. When I had that mastectomy there, everything went well. They did the operation. In the afternoon, I was up to the bathroom. Praise the Lord. And you know the peace that God can give you. I was nervous, you know, the night before, and I just said, Lord, I'm in your hands. And you know, I don't know how the Lord does it, but He gives you that peace that all is all right. And then, of course, in the morning, no matter what hour you go in the operation room, there's peeking in. Bless his heart. And that's another thing you're grateful for when you have a pastor that cares, that is there, that says prayers with you. You know God is there, but it's good to have somebody in the flesh too that is make you okay. Yes. But it's so wonderful how God can give you this beautiful peace when you have something to face. And then I was doing real well, got back on my feet. I had to take that, when he saw me, when he took the bandage off, he went like that. He said, don't look at it, don't look at it. He had to take the stitches out without giving me anything. And dig that blood clot out. And then they hooked me up to the thing. They kept me there because staph infections. Oh, I can't tell you people what I went through on that. That was really rough going. And if I didn't have the Lord to hang on to, I think I would have given up. I really tell you the truth. After about a week, they let me go home, but the whole breast was all hard, full of blood clots, and it didn't want to dissolve. It didn't want to dissolve. They had to go back in and put a drain in, and never given you anything, because I don't know why. They don't give you anything. And after a while that hurts when they dig that incision, but that incision, they wanted it to be open to drain, to drain that all out. And so one time I went in the office and they took a culture test and said, we better take a culture test. They lost the culture test. Oh. I tell you, I thought I was jinxed. My land, everything. I laugh about it now, but when you're there, it's not so funny. So finally, after 8 weeks, they did find cancer there too. And after 8 weeks, finally the swelling down, and it was 5th of April where I had the other breast removed. So, it's hard for a woman when you look at yourself. I look at myself sometimes, and it's not an easy thing to go through, and still a lot of pain sometimes, but they tell me that goes with it. But with God's help, while I was recovering from that, the 8 weeks there, I don't like to cry in front of my husband because a man don't like to see a woman cry. And I remember going up and down Pond Road and weather permitting and crying out to the Lord, it's just, oh Lord, I said, what a situation I am here, help! But he did. And the third operation again went fine. There was nothing complication or anything. But you say, what good? God says all things work together for good to them that love God. Well, he brought my boy home from Bangladesh with his family. We had a little granddaughter. And the minute he was home, one thing after another happened in Bangladesh. They had that big tidal wave. They had a big fire. They had that big train crash where Harry goes all the time on to Dhaka. So we don't know how God is working. And it brought my husband and me really closer. You know, sometimes hardships really bring you closer because he opens up, talks a little bit more now, and I treasure that. I treasure when he opens up and talks. And when I can share with him, that's good. I think that's good. And so many good things came out of that. And God is using me in my cancer support group where I'm going because a lot of people, a lot of ladies, they're facing that, and we have men there too, and they're just devastated. They're just so down and so discouraged. I had one lady, she was there, and I saw her in the cottles because I didn't want to go back because remember when we went, it was kind of discouraging, and I said, well, I don't know, it's not too encouraging, but God had other plans. And I saw that lady in the store, and I said, oh, hi, Mrs. Bernier, how you doing? Oh, she said, I just so discouraged. She said, and she blamed God for everything. And you know me, I got hold of it. I said, oh, don't blame God for that. Oh, please don't blame God for it. I said, all the junky food we're eating and the environment, I said, that brings on that lousy cancer, I said, but please don't blame it on God. I said, I'm going to pray for you. And next time I saw her, she had a smile on her face. She says, you prayed for me, didn't you? I feel so much better, she said. So you see, I thought, after this operation, I said, oh my Lord, what am I good for still, But God he takes nothing and makes it work. And so I go there and I encourage other people. And in St. Mary's, there's a priest that sits in, and when I first went there, I gave my testimony, talked about the Lord, and he came up to me. What is his name, Father? Who's that? Yeah, that's what his name is. And he says, oh, I enjoyed your testimony. He said, he says, I think I'm going to have you speak Sunday in the church. I said, sure, Father. You meet such nice people everywhere. God is no respecter of person, okay? And I just wanted to share a few scriptures with you if you hang in there with me. And by the way, God didn't give me the assurance that I should be healed, but I can only tell you that I feel good inside. I don't know what God's plan are for me, but I feel good inside. I have the joy of the Lord. I'm thankful for everything. I thank God for bringing me through those hard times because of being my courage, for being in there with me when the going was so tough, when you think sometimes you just want to give up. And, through his word again, new encouragement. When I read in the Bible, when I read my Bible, I picture the Lord giving me a boost in my behind when I feel like that on a pity patter. Say, now straighten out those knees, those feeble knees there, and get going again now. That's enough now, And that, gives you courage again to go on, see. And as you do that, as you give thanks to the Lord, I think he gives you that joy that, I don't know, like I said, I can't explain it, but sometimes I have such joy. I just feel like bubbling over. Not physically, because physically I'm aching all the time, but spiritually it's a good feeling. Like I say, I can't explain how God does it. But I had also people come up to me that know what I believe in and say, where's your God? Why did he let that happen to you? That hurts. I'm going to give you a scripture for that. It's in Psalm if you want to look it up. Psalms 42:11. And it says, David has the same problem. In the Bible you find always things that you can relate your own life to. And that helps me tremendously. Every morning I read my Bible. That gives me courage for the day. And my daily devotion. And that gets me for the set for the day, because even if I'm sometimes, pain and things don't go so good, I said, Lord, you have made this day. Now I'm going to be happy and rejoice in it. And I make up my mind to do that. And he helps you do that. You either can sit there, feel sorry for yourself, or you can say, Lord, I'm going to live this day to the fullest. And I don't know how many I have, but I'm going to live it to the fullest. And here, David must have had these friends too, because they said, where is that God of yours? I'm sure, I can just picture it. Can you? These friends saying to David. And here it says, but oh my soul, don't be discouraged. Don't be upset. Expect God to act, for I know that I shall again have plenty of reason to praise him for all that he will do. He is my help, and he is my God. And oh, how I claim that. Would you mind if I share a few more? Psalms 32:7. You are my hiding place from every storm of life. You even keep me from getting into trouble. You surround me with songs of victory. And that's so true. He can give you a song in the night. He can give you that when, like I said, when I was laying there in the hospital, even he can bless you there. When it looks so bleak, he can give you a song in the night. It's so beautiful. And then in Hebrews again. Hebrews 3:6. But Christ, God's faithful Son, is in complete charge of God's house. And we Christians are God's house. Why are we? Because he's living within us, isn't he? Oh, praise his name. Oh, hallelujah. He lives in us if we keep our courage firm to the end, and our joy and our trust in the Lord. And I know he's going to see us through, no matter what we have to face. And in Philippians 4, 6 and 8. Don't worry. How we like to worry. Oh, I used to be a worrier. Oh, I used to worry about everything. Where would the money come from to pay the bills and this and that? I don't worry about nothing no more. No more. I do the best I can. I say, Lord, the rest is in your hand. And oh, how that relieves you. You feel so much better about it. It says, don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God your needs, and don't forget to thank him for his answer. And I think there's a lot of truth in it. A lot of times we experience God's goodness, and then we go off and we don't even thank him. That's terrible. I think we should have thankful hearts for everything. And we're so blessed here. We're so blessed here. Oh, when you go out and you don't have any food and you know what hunger is, it's terrible. And in Colossians 1, 11, 12, we're praying too that you will be filled with his mighty, glorious strength, so that you can keep going no matter what happens, always full of the joy of the Lord, and always thankful to the Father who has made us fit to share all the wonderful things that belong to those who live in the kingdom of light. And we're living in the light because of Jesus. Oh, I praise his wonderful name. I feel he has done so much in my life, and he has blessed me so very much. Even now, I feel God, using me in little ways. People come up to me from WTME there, where I give sometimes my testimony and say, "Oh, you're so encouraging." They tell me what they go through. And, we have so many hurting people in this world. Oh, we have so many hurting people. And my prayer is, Father, apply your healing balm to the pain and hurt of each daily bruise. And these bruises, they could be unhappy marriage, they could be loneliness, they could be anything. But Jesus has the healing balm for us. He heals the hurting heart. He mends the broken marriage. He puts that love in there again. And he is our all. I can really say he's my lover, he's my healer, he is my everything. I can truly say that. And Pastor asked me to sing a little song. And I enjoyed this so much because it's written by Ira Stanfield, and I don't know if you remember him. He gave his testimony. And these songs, they have a meaning now when we hear his testimony because we've seen what he's gone through. And that really makes you think that when we are gone through some fiery trials, God brings something beautiful out of it, doesn't he? Because we wouldn't have all those beautiful songs if he hadn't gone through what he has gone through, right? It's beautiful. Now, will I stick that in here? We made that tape. Bob is playing in the background, and Jean Ashton did it for me, and she no, this is on this side.
Okay, but it goes up.
Okay, well, leave it to me. I don't have
No, I marked that too. It's all set to go.
Okay. Can we put it loud? Because it's low. Oh, okay. Unworthy am I of the grace that He gives, unworthy to hold to His hand. Amazed that the King would reach down to a slave. This love I cannot understand. Unworthy, a beggar in bondage and alone, but He makes me worthy, and now by His grace, His mercy has made me His own. My sorrow and sickness lay stripes on His back. My sin caused the blood that was shed. My faults and my failures have borne a crown, adorned as He wore on His head. Unworthy, a beggar in bondage and alone, but He made me worthy, and now by His grace, His mercy has made me His own. Unworthy am I of the glory to come, unworthy with angels to sing. I thrill just to know that He loved me so much, oh God. Oh God, I walk with the King, hallelujah. Unworthy, so unworthy, a beggar in bondage and alone, but He made me worthy, and now I can say His mercy has made me His own. Oh, thank God. But He